I don't even know how the countdown works.
It starts with one number and goes in reverse to zero.
Exactly.
That's how the countdown works.
No, but no, it doesn't. It's weird.
Yes, it's been different.
It's been different. And it's
Yes.
like we only have a virtual book club every 2 weeks. And we missed 1 month. And that 1 month was enough for the changes that they make within the system to be uh, just
Is Restream? I mean, I don't run across it except this. Is Restream a popular platform?
yeah, it used to be between StreamYard or Restream.
Yes, those were the big two.
Yeah, the big two.
Hmm.
And then now I see River something for podcasts, and I can't remember. Yeah, because we did the first book club on StreamYard. The first time we went online, we did it on StreamYard, and then the second time we picked Restream, and I can't remember why that was.
I think wouldn't it StreamYard wanted to charge something that you? Uh,
Oh, yeah. But
yeah,
I mean,
it became uneconomical if I remember correctly.
yeah, once the second year comes in, it becomes uneconomical again. It's annoying, but whatever. I work for book club. I work so I can hold a virtual book club. I've got my priorities straight.
Absolutely.
No need to question your life decisions now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm going to take this into retirement. We could be lifers. Oh my goodness. No, and how fun it would be, in my opinion.
Yep. I mean, I will say, said it before, but being involved in this has had me read a lot of books that I don't know would have ever, I never, or would have read, let alone even crossed my radar. And with very few exceptions, very few, I'm glad of all of the ones that I've read.
Me too. Me too.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, your world is expanded because of your reading. And like, um, I've come to find that the more I age, the more I dislike airports. So if I can travel in my books, I'm fine with that.
Speaking of travel, not this has anything to do with books other than, being on an airplane is a great time to read. Yeah. Yeah, Stephen, you might appreciate this being in New York.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
If you haven't heard the story before, but earlier this year, I made the decision that I was going to try and visit in my lifetime every Major League Baseball park. And being a Mets fan from
Ah,
the time I was a kid, my goal is to visit every park to see a Mets game and then conclude in New York with the 30th game since there's 30 major league teams,
correct.
at Citi Field for a Mets game. And so, long story short, I went to Arizona in May, and I'm going next week to Cleveland to see the Mets play the Guardians. I almost said the
You
Indians,
all said Indians.
but to be politically correct, Guardians.
Yes. Oh, yes, I did remember you mentioning that goal once, Hal. And one of my closest friends has wants to do the same thing, and he's also a diehard Mets fans.
Yeah. The sad news is that economically I can only manage about two trips a year, which will mean it'll take me 15 years. So I might be showing up in New York at that final Mets game at 80 years old. So God willing.
Whatever it takes.
I can't wait.
I enjoyed visiting Wrigley Field.
That'll be sometime in the future.
Yeah.
So we have Chris Galacy that just joined us. Chris, I'll introduce myself and then I'll let others introduce themselves to you. I'm Benita Lee, and I know Chris from ICPA. He's a fellow trade nerd. And I saw my first Blue Jays game in Toronto while we were at that last ICPA. So my first Blue Jays game.
Yeah.
In the stadium.
That'll be I'll let you know whenever I'm
Let me
doing
know.
that trip.
I'm sure you're going to find it very more economical.
Cleveland will be a little expensive, yeah. Next year, I've already got my eye on the Philadelphia Phillies game and Houston Astros game.
Hal is going to watch every game.
No, not everyone.
No, not every game. Every season, he's going to watch 30 games in a different city. Is that right?
The goal is I started this year because I'm a New York Mets fan, Chris.
Okay.
When I was a kid. I was 9 years old when the Mets, and I was physically at the fifth game of the World Series in '69 when the Mets won against the Baltimore Orioles. So I've been a Mets fan ever since. So I started this year with a goal of visiting every major league ballpark in my lifetime to see a Mets game.
Okay.
And so I started earlier this year with Arizona, and next week I'm going to Cleveland. So.
Oh, very cool. You're a baseball fan. I apologize for I over to the left of me, I have an Aaron Judge jersey. I'm a New York Yankee fan.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And behind me, these aren't tariff guides. These are actually my baseball card collection behind me. I'm a huge baseball fan. I grew up watching the Yankees and going up to Toronto and watching the Blue Jays. But my goal is to collect every Topps card from the time I was born to, which is 1972 to present. So I've been working on that. It's been a lifelong dream. I've been collecting that.
Wow, that's a lot of cards.
Oh yeah, that's really
that's
cool.
That's dedication.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a passion, and I love baseball. It's funny. It's great to hear you guys are baseball fans as well, because Benny and I were talking about ICPA for next year. We might get a bunch of us to go to a Toronto Blue Jay fan. Try a Blue Jay game. And I was watching Benita on LinkedIn the day before the conference, how she went. I'm like, that was such an awesome idea, So really nice.
Yeah, let's do it next year.
Got it, for sure.
So Hal is a Florida man who grew up in New York.
Nice.
And Stephen actually is in New York. So you guys are all kind of in the East Coast because
that's right.
Chris is in Buffalo.
I am. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, born and raised in New York.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. During those ICPA conferences in Toronto, 40% of the participants are Americans because there's so many close to those border towns and Montreal and Detroit. And, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're here to discuss choke points, which was not about physical choke points, because I went into this book thinking, oh, we're going to talk about the Strait of Hormuz or the Red Sea or...
Me too. Or the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb in the Middle East.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we didn't. It was, like coming from non-sanction, non-trade compliance people that don't have to hear the word sanction every day. What was the book about for you?
Well, I think I mean, the subtitle sort of gave it away. You know, I mean, the subtitle is American Power in the Age of Economic Warfare,
Yes.
right? You know, but I certainly didn't know is, you know, over all the pages that it was really going to focus on four major events. And that was, you know, Iran's quest to develop a nuclear weapon back in the Obama administration, you know, and the efforts to try and stop it through, you know, economic sanctions by, you know, putting pressure on Iran. You know, the two Russia points, one with Crimea, and then subsequently with the invasion of Ukraine, and then, you know, the economic sanctions that were put on China, mostly but not entirely, because of actions like companies like Huawei and their ties to the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, that part I didn't know. And what I found interesting was, even though some of it is historical in that, you know, it's over the last 10 years, all of it is relevant to where we sit right now in
Mhm.
July of 2026, because all of it is still an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I found it fascinating. I'm early to the game. I just started reading the book. I was on vacation when I saw the posting that Benita had on there. And I'm actually like, I believe I'm early, like around chapter 5, where we're talking about the U.S. currency. And this is something that I've been infatuated with, is the power of the U.S. of utilizing its currency on, you know, putting sanctions on these different countries. And, you know, one of the best policies that was ever created was during Bretton Woods, when, you know, the U.S. negotiated with all the superpowers about, you know, not only pegging trade to gold, you know, but also sneaking in that one line to the U.S. dollar. And it really, you know, that first move that was made by saying that we're going to start trading in gold and then also US dollars. But then 1971, with the Nixon shock of removing the US dollar off the gold, now we're looking at ourselves saying, okay, you know, we can create this leverage of what's going on with these different countries. But now, as we see the rise of BRICS, and you know, with US putting sanctions on Russia and trying to put sanctions on Iran and China, you know, it's, I think we're up to now almost 65 different countries are associated with the BRICS, and looking at you coming with a unified currency to doing transactions. Which, what will that be for the US dollar on creating leverage for these companies, for these countries down the road? So when they talked about 90%, I think it was in chapter 5, of the US currency having some shape or form of what's going on, I thought that was really high. I really think it's much lower than that. Maybe when the book was created versus written versus what is out there today, I think it's a little bit lower. But I think US is losing that leverage compared to what the other forms of currency that's available out there. So.
I'd agree, and I think some of it. I think some of the, you know, the level of anti-American animosity and negative sentiment, you know, has escalated because of the actions that have occurred, you know, really during the Trump administration.
Oh, big time.
And so I think, you know, there is more and more of a desire to want to move away from, you know, the US dollar being the primary. I don't think it's, you know, in our lifetimes, I don't think it's going to go to the point where it's going to be, you know, relegated to some third world country, you know, and a monetary instrument. But, you know, but I think our actions globally, you know, have created, you know, the headwinds of making it less desirable. And because you want to protect yourself, you know, those countries want to protect themselves and be able to continue to do trade. And if they have, if their trade is denominated in US dollar, and the US can squeeze the country by, you know, through sanctions, you know, you want to move off of that because it's just logical activity. You know, it's rational activity.
Right. Oh, that's fascinating. It really
And I
is.
think, part of the book that really I hadn't thought as much about till after reading it is the U.S. for the most part in its history has tried to, not successfully all the time, but tried to use sanctions strategically.
Yep.
You have smart people advising the president to tell them, well, if we do this, these are the likely reactions, and this is I mean, you game theory it out.
Mm-hmm.
And what troubles me in the time we're in right now is the Trump administration is more transactional than strategic. And so it isn't really thinking through, and this is just my perception. I don't have any direct knowledge. My perception is, just that by being more transactional, you're not thinking through the actions of the tariffs and the sanctions that you're putting out there. And, and we're creating situations that we would have been better off long term if we just didn't do.
Right.
Even though it might be a short term win, it's a long term loss.
Yeah.
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 I'd like to go to some of the questions that were raised in the chat that I thought were really interesting, and thankfully they're all under. I don't know if they're under the first 5 chapters. But,
Probably not. I'm out for my ears.
It's a thread that is kind of like weaved throughout the book. So,
Okay.
The win-win logic of globalization that had defined U.S.-China relations for decades gave way to the zero-sum reality of a technological confrontation between rival superpowers. That was on page 419.
Okay.
I've got thoughts on it because I was the one who suggested we maybe talk about that. But
Yeah,
I'm talking
I've got
too much.
lots of thoughts on it.
But I'm talking too much, so somebody else say
well,
something.
okay, well, I'll do the Benita Lee thing then. I'll tell a personal story.
Love it.
The whole reason why I took international business was because globalization was a huge buzzword in 1995. So it's kind of like the start of my career is like, yeah, like globalization, the world's not flat, that type of thing. Thomas Friedman and all that kind of thing. And then, I mean, like 30 years from then, we're seeing like the dismantling of it, which is interesting because I grew up in that win-win logic, and it's hard to shake.
But globalization works in theory when when someone doesn't approach things with an ulterior motive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it falls apart as soon as countries have ulterior motives for what they choose to do and not do in a global environment. And so, you go back to Gorbachev and Reagan and the beginning of what appeared to be U.S.-Russia relations, and feeling like there wasn't we weren't in a Cold War, there wasn't an ulterior motive, and Nixon making the trip to China and trying to break down those barriers. But but China, and I'm not going to say the U.S. doesn't have ulterior motives either, but when it comes to that, that quote that you read, Benita, it's a technological arms race with especially in AI, and it's between the U.S. and China, and so it's very hard to be in a win-win relationship when you're also trying to beat the snot out of each other to come out on top.
Yeah, it's the Cold War all over again, but instead of
nukes. But more dangerous, because nobody's gonna before we were afraid that someone was going to shoot a nuclear weapon. Well, the reality of that happening is the only way that's going to happen is some rogue nation gets a nuclear bomb and gets too big for its britches and tries to do something. But any of the countries right now who are on the list of being nuclear powers, their governments are sane and logical enough to realize that that's just mutually assured destruction and the end of the planet.
Yeah.
So that's why it's all economic warfare.
Yeah, it is economic. It's
between countries of any substance in the first world.
And you can't win if if one country if each opposing country has a commodity or something valuable that their counterpart lacks. U.S. has chips which China craves for its military, but then China also has the rare earths that are needed to manufacture those same chips.
Yep. It's funny you say that because I look back to my career. I'm a little bit older than Manita. I started my career in the 90s in banking, and then
Okay.
I found international by accident. And you look at the comparison of what has been created, even from like 2000 to now, where the U.S. has, lost its potential as trading partners, with countries in Africa, South America, even Canada and the EU, as compared to China. China has come in and taken over as the number one trading partner. I mean, you look back to even 1967, there was a statistic out there that the U.S. was producing 75% of the goods and services all around the world. And, one of the things that frustrates me is, with these tariffs, it's kind of like we're punishing the multinational companies that have U.S. interests, and it kind of hinders their investment. And so, years ago, when I was in the nonprofit world, well, back in the nonprofit world now, but when I was with the WTC, we did an initiative to work with China on it was called the JCCTE. It was the Joint Commission of a U.S. China trade in the healthcare sector, and we would teach U.S. companies how to do business in China in the healthcare industry, and then China would teach their companies how to do business in the U.S. And we would work collaboratively on how we can get through some of these barriers, either through the FDA or through China's equivalent and such. And one of the things I felt was, this was 2014, 2015. China was open to take in U.S. products into their market, and vice versa. The U.S. was open as well. And I think with trade and globalization, you can't hide by it or go into like this protectionism or nationalism approach of we're going to manufacture here only in our country. We need to look at, I've written papers on this, of a buy local, trade regional, sell global, where we make full circle. And, the world is our shopping basket. We need to hit trade head on. And if the company is more competitive, great, we lost on that product, but show how we can be more competitive in other products. And now you have companies that can buy the best of products, whether it's components or finished products around the world, so they can have it. But by putting these tariffs that they're doing right now, it frustrates me on what advice they're giving. We're just setting ourselves back to, like, I have to say, unfortunately, like 1929, 1930, when, we went into that protectionist mode prior to World War II, which is shameful. And I look back with, like I said, at 2013, 2014, when I was going to China, we were embracing that trade with one another. We wanted those products, and we were bringing products over there. And it's just amazing in a short matter of time of 15 years, how much, or less than 15 years, how much things have really changed for the worse. So,
well, this is one of the things that, as you're talking, Chris, and you made some great points, that, was running through my mind. And we talked about this a little bit on the last call about the book, was as much as, I think we all favor, the U.S. and Canada's forms of democracy over other options. You look at Russia, and you look at China, and their leaders, they can take a more strategic long-term view.
Yep.
And so, there's no question whether he's successful or not. Putin in his lifetime wants to reconstitute the USSR, right? And Xi wants to be the great power of the world, right? In all things,
Right.
And so, but what is our long-term strategic goal other than sustaining democracy in the US, because it's schizophrenic every 4 to 8 years.
Yes.
And so it makes it very difficult for the world to deal with the US.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, and it makes the US, if you don't really deeply understand, not just Russia and China, I'm using those as, big examples. What is the goal of the leadership of the countries? What is Modi's real goals, in India? And you just go down the list, and you really have to keep that in mind. And being, this schizophrenic approach to tariffs is not the answer in my mind, because it doesn't take into account any long-term strategy.
No, I agree. And it's funny you said that, because I think a lot has to do with what's happening in not only just the geopolitical outside the U.S., or what's happening in the U.S. In a sense, we have 2 or 3 different economies that are going on at the same time because of the difference of wealth diversification. I mean, you look at that, like I was saying before, in 1967, when 75% of the goods were being manufactured in the United States, there was a neat statistic that said that an ounce of gold was equivalent to a person's wealth, a person's weekly paycheck, $35 an ounce. That was their paycheck back in 1971 or whatever it may be. Now, an ounce of gold now is equal to $4,700 a week. How many of those people are like that? So you look at, we're looking at the U.S. You have people that have massive amounts of wealth, which is probably about 10 to 15% of the population. And then you have about 20 to 25% that are in the middle there, just have no idea what's going on, that they're just in the middle. But that remaining 60%, there was another statistic saying out there that if there was a $500 emergency, these people couldn't afford it. If a pet got sick or things like that. So now you see something evolving over what, the elections in New York City with Minami, this democratic socialism that's happening and things like that. And now it's not, and I don't want to go on a political thing, but you see that because there's so much uncertainty by the leadership of the United States by saying, oh, we're going to bring back manufacturing, we're going to go into protectionism. But then the people in the United States are going, well, where's these glory days of America? What's going on here? Where are we benefiting from this? And, and now we see changes in the geopolitical. Less than 100 days away, we're going to have the elections. I think we're going to see a paradigm shift where hopefully that these tariffs will hopefully ease up and pressures will be put more on the leadership in other ways.
I think what I think will happen is if, and this is the big if, not saying what I want, but if the Democratic Party does take control of both houses, both the House and the Senate, then they're going to force the constitutional issue that the power of the purse and the ability to sanction and the ability to declare war, are all powers that the Congress, that the Constitution gave Congress.
Right.
And so they're going to block the Trump administration from doing a lot of things.
Right.
That's the big swing. But then, because of that, we'll just be in a different political gridlock for 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Side note.
Yeah, get us off this topic.
I know.
No, this is good stuff. I feel like Stephen and I should be asking you guys questions and treating this like a podcast. But I'm just thinking, like, as a Canadian, every time like a U.S. election comes up or the midterms come up, I'm like, it's like me watching football. I'm like trying to figure out all the rules again. And I can't remember because it was only when like my favorite American team had been in the finals like 20 years ago.
That's a good analogy.
I
That is a
know.
great analogy. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So I can't remember. So it's like, I feel like during, like, up until the midterms, like from now on, we should have kind of like a mini brief of what's going on down there, because like Canadians want to know too. Like, we don't really get it. You know, we play the CFL. Totally different rules.
I don't know if you heard one of the jokes about they say about Canada is like somebody having an apartment above a meth lab. That's what it is, because after the election, and it really, because it is sometimes it's just crazy town, that's happening. Just when you think that the envelope just could only get pushed even further, it just even goes even further, and it just and that's what I it frustrates me is, not to take a side or anything, but I'm a globalist. I'm a citizen of the world. I'm for free trade, but I feel like we've gone in such a protectionism mode that what other countries are seeing us from the outside, and as they're seeing, because there's so much uncertainty, we see that countries are giving up their treasuries. We see that countries don't want to trade in US dollars. We see that countries are more aligning with the BRICS. We see, and where the U.S., what we created over 80 years ago with Bretton Woods and the Monetary Fund and building ourselves as this conveyor of the world, we are slowly losing that because of the actions of the last, 18 months, which is,
well, it'll be interesting to see. We get past the midterms and we start moving into, presidential primary season and stuff like
right.
that. It will really be interesting to see, because it's pretty clear who's going to emerge on the Republican side.
Oh yeah.
But it's still a little unclear as to who's going to emerge on the Democratic side and what their campaign platforms are going to be.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's going to give some insight whether they fulfill those platforms. If someone on the Democratic side were to become president is always questionable. But how are they positioning to be to change the narrative?
Yeah.
Right. And is it going, it isn't going, is it going to be a continuation of this America first view or a return to a more globalist view, and down the list, I mean, most of the Democrats are basically going to say, what has been the key tenets of the MAGA movement, and let's just do the opposite. Right.
Yeah. And then I agree with you, Helen. And one of the things that scare me is if you saw that survey that came out about 6 months ago when all this stuff started happening, actually back in April, there was a threat. There was 3 choices. Which one was a larger threat? And they surveyed Europeans and Canadians, and it said China, Russia, or the U.S. The U.S. actually took the number 1 spot as being the number 1 threat out compared to China and Russia, which is really frightening because as somebody in the U.S., I would have never thought that would have made the number 1 spot, maybe number 2, but not to beat both of them out like that. And that,
well, it's what's scary to any of us as individuals, right? Yeah. Unpredictability. I have no idea what's going to happen if I do anything. That's scary.
Yeah.
Right. So that's to me, I can't get in their minds. That's how other countries are reacting. The U.S. is unpredictable in its actions.
Yes.
And so that's fearful.
Yes. Yeah.
That's my interpretation.
No, I agree 100%.
Well, isn't it hilarious? Well, not hilarious, but isn't it strange that, going back to the question, the win-win logic of globalization, isn't it odd that, like the West, because I'm including Canada, we pride ourselves in democracy, and then the East is mostly like communist, socialist. They are actually, China is actually more globalized than the US is now. Like it's flipped. Like
Yeah.
it's their age of globalization.
Yeah. Look at the investments in
Yeah.
Africa. I mean, in the conversion of, currency of African countries utilizing the
Well,
yuan.
let's explain that because I don't know if BRICS is mainstream. So, is it? Does everybody know what BRICS is?
I do.
I do.
Okay, it is mainstream then. Brazil, Russia, India,
India.
China,
South Africa.
South Africa, and 65 other countries that are aligned with them as well.
Right, because we can't call them BRICS. Blah, 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 blah.
BRICS Plus. BRICS Plus.
Yeah, BRICS Plus.
But what holds those countries together? I mean, you think about it, put Brazil, would you put Brazil and India in the same box as Russia and China? And then add South Africa.
Well,
I mean, the commonality is a dislike of the US.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
yes.
That's the
it.
common bond. And we're doing everything we can to encourage it.
Do you guys remember the TPP that was created with Obama?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah,
no, I mean it's still coming up because I was reading something yesterday where it's still being argued it was supposed to be temporary.
Isn't it great? Now here's some irony. You got the TPP that was created around Obama. That was all these countries were supposed to get together with the U.S. leading this charge to keep China in a line and keep them honest throughout the world. The U.S. now with the new administration, the U.S. leaves the TPP, but they still keep it active under the similar name. China is now going to become a member, and now it's become more to let's keep the U.S. in a line and honest throughout the world. Talk about something that hasn't changed, in a less than 7 years, maybe 8 years. You know how things can flip. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. When was the TPP inked? The Trans-Pacific Partnership.
I think it was created. It first came out around Obama's administration.
Oh,
And
That's
okay.
correct.
Pre-Trump one, right? Right. I think it was Stephen.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
right.
But that's part of part of this undercurrent is that things that were put in place during the Obama administration, the JCPOA with Iran, the TPP, where it doesn't really matter what it was or what letters it was, Donald Trump's hate for Barack because he has to throw in Hussein Obama.
Yeah, Hussein Obama.
Right? His absolute hate would be, I don't care what it was. I want to undo everything he's done.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, his mocking of the Biden administration to the point where the row of presidents and their portraits in the White House, when you get to Obama and when you get to Biden is just an auto pen.
The auto pen, yeah.
Right? I mean, so I'm not trying to bring that up because I'm trying to demonstrate that I don't like Trump, although obviously I don't. But the point is that there's no strategy behind a lot of this stuff. Yeah. It's just what I don't like, and we're going to establish policy around that.
Right.
And that's the world can't handle that.
No.
Nor should it.
Yeah. And that's what
that's why I was saying earlier, our short-term actions, even if they may feel like a win right now, are long-term losses.
Oh, huge.
Right? Because, the attempt to undo some things, will take more than 4 or 8 years to accomplish. And, there's
maybe longer.
But the trust of the United States and the world for, I'll just call it, countries that matter economically, globally, is at its lowest point ever. And that includes, rightfully so, Canada's trust of the U.S.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to that whole thing, you know, the assumption of globalization was a win-win logic. And in the world we're in today, everybody's playing win-lose.
Yeah, I agree. Even you guys saw recently, even those IEPA tariff refunds, we're actually paying more on IEPA refunds every month than what the country's bringing in tariffs now. I
Oh
mean, something that
no.
policy that was
Oh,
created is now backfired because we're now paying back more plus interest of $650 million a month of unpaid tariffs. So
What an admin nightmare.
yeah, it's great. I've never created, never, and not to be biased in trade, and I'm with you too, Hal. It's not like that. I don't like them. I don't like them because I'm in trade, and it's created so much juggernaut in our industry, and it's set us backwards so much that as a trader and somebody as a globalist and a citizen of the world, how do we supposed to? It's not going to be a band-aid. Whoever the next leader is going to be, it's going to take years to gain that trust again. And that's if we get that trust again. It might be something we might not see, our children or children's children may never see that trust come back from other countries around the world because of the damage that has been done. It's crazy.
No, I mean, there are two things. There's more, but there's two things that come to mind that the arguable leader of the free world, the U.S., at least up until recently. There are two things that need to have happen. Three things that will only sustain that it works long term, and that's that the U.S. is a trusted partner.
Yep.
Right. Well, we're not.
Nope.
The wealth disparity within the U.S. shrinks, not grows. Well, that's not working, right? So now we have distrust from the outside looking in, and we have distrust within, right? And the third piece is sort of this, stability, a dependability of what the U.S. is all about on the world stage, and that's not there. No. And the only way the only way United States is going to remain the quote unquote leader of the free world is it's got to fix those macro issues.
Yeah,
and that's not happening, in 5 or 10 years. Hope it happens in our lifetimes, but it's easy to undo stuff that took years to create.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think it's even more complicated because, like, of how you have China like exporting Huawei like worldwide and involving like longtime allies of the U.S. and convincing them to adopt it, like the UK and Germany, for example. They're up until recently they were enormous users of Huawei without realizing the like national security risks implications.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So more on the confrontation between rival superpowers in the following months and years.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And sanctions, I liked this quote. Sanctions are like antibiotics. They work well when used correctly, but cause a host of problems when used excessively or inappropriately. In some cases, I need my glasses. They're simply the wrong approach when Washington seeks regime change, as the Trump admin did in Iran and Venezuela. It's a fool's errand to expect sanctions to get the job done. So, like, I always thought of sanctions. My first look at sanctions was really in 2014. Russia annexed Crimea, and I was like, sanctions? What's that? And they sent like the global trade person down there. And I came back and I told them, okay, so we need an export person now. And they're like, you're it. And what I was told is like, sanctions are so that we don't have to go to war. But that's not what I'm seeing lately.
Well, I think they've been used in two different ways for the most part, and they can be used. Sanctions can be used, as punishment, right? So the U.S. tried to, sanctioned Russia when it seized Crimea. It put on greater sanctions when it invaded Ukraine. The U.S. used trade sanctions against China because of the actions of Huawei and others. But initially, does that the thing you quoted? There also have been used very ineffectively to try and affect regime change, and Iran and Venezuela being examples. You could, the logic is we'll sanction the country. The populace will become less um, financially stable. They'll start having food shortages and all this kind of stuff. They'll rise up against the government and there'll be a regime change, right? So we're going to inflict the pain on the populace to try and force change. Didn't work in Iran, and we had to resort to military action. Didn't work in Venezuela, so we just had to fly in and take Maduro out under the cover of darkness. And so, hopefully, we've learned the lesson, that sanctions don't work to try and affect regime change. And you're just going to put a lot of people who are innocent bystanders through a lot of pain.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. We saw that with Libya. Libya was too, right? It was Libya. Yep. Libya, we did that when they took out Gaddafi. They tried to put sanctions on Libya, and that didn't work. So they came in militarily. But no, it's a great quote. And
is Gaddafi still hiding somewhere in Russia?
Oh no, he's gone.
Okay.
They got him.
Oh,
yeah, they got him. So, we're going back. That was shortly after Saddam Hussein, after.
That's right.
Yeah,
somebody, one of those world leaders is hiding somewhere in Russia.
Oh, I know you're thinking of. I can picture him. I know you're thinking of Syria.
Yes.
Syria. Yeah.
Yes.
Assad.
Yeah, Assad.
Yeah, you don't hear much about him anymore.
No, he's hiding in Russia.
Because he was secretly flown out of Syria into Russia. That's how I remember it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, it was Gaddafi they got after Saddam Hussein. But yeah, sanctions. It's funny how if we look back maybe about 40 or 50 years ago, sanctions might have been a little bit more powerful. But right now, I don't see, it's funny when you look at, you'll watch something like in North Korea, or you see something in, footage in Iran or other countries. And you're wondering like, well, hey, isn't that a Ford vehicle, or isn't that an American product? It's just going by. And it's like, how did that happen? And I think because of what sanctions, they say they're doing sanctions, but usually what it's doing, it's being filtered through another third party country that's buying it and being rerouted to that country. And I don't know if you're ever interested in a great read. It's from BIS. It's called "Don't Let This Happen to You." And it has a great case studies of people that have been caught, with the different sanctions that have been out there, that kind of third routed or rerouted or things like that. They can try to beat the sanctions, but I don't see it being effective as it was, many years ago.
Well, the thing too is, that sanctions, one country issuing sanctions against another country is going to have really limited effect because of global trade, right? Yeah. So the only way you can affect, sanctions can be effective is you have to build a global coalition that are going to, take coordinated action. which is a lot of this book talks about some of the shuttle diplomacy that was done to try and get other countries to fall in line with what the U.S. wanted, because otherwise it knew that it wasn't going to the sanctions weren't going to be effective. Right. And another example, we're the U.S. is acting like it only needs us,
right?
And rational logic in any leader of any country that might find itself subject to sanctions is going to be, we need to diversify. We need to, if the U.S. were to level sanctions, or pick your country that would likely level sanctions against you. If this were to happen, what would happen to us? Okay, well, let's try to prevent the damage from that.
Yeah.
Right. So, one-off sanctions really can't work in this world anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's a lot of the book, goes into, is a lot of the behind the scenes negotiating and shuttle diplomacy that needed to be done to make some of those sanctions, have teeth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting, the behind the scenes, because we often don't get to see behind the scenes. Never.
Not until it's too late.
Right.
Yeah.
Not until 10 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys, there's a great, I should put it in the chat. I just watched it yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw the documentary on Saudi Aramco when the U.S. first came to do oil exploration in the 50s. And it was interesting how they worked out a deal with the king over there. And what happened was, I think it was like $35,000 and some gold or whatever. And then they were giving him some type of royalties. But then when he found out in the 70s that the U.S. was doing a 50-50 split with like Venezuela and other countries for the for the oil exploration, he put up a fit, and he said, that's unfair. What's going to be in it for me? So what they did is they actually created a tax credit for them. So what happened was, as a tax credit of $50 million a year, it was actually put on the backs of the U.S. taxpayers that weren't aware of this until 2016, like 40 years later. So so talk about diplomacy. They negotiated the diplomacy saying, don't worry, you're going to still get your 50-50, but it's going to be in another way. We're going to have give you as a tax credit. And then that tax credit is going to be to come back to you in the form of cash. But then it's a loss for our tax rolls because it goes on the backs of the U.S. taxpayer. But these are the behind the scene diplomacies that's going on. That it was under foil. They didn't reveal this until 2016 that this came out. This was all kept under the radar.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much diplomacy, not only just the power of sanctions, but other tools that the U.S. is working with other countries, whether if it's going to be a cost factor to the taxpayer or, what they call whatever that collateral damage may be involved with. So it's really fascinating.
And so this was classified until classified information, until 2016.
2016, yeah, it was Saudi Aramco. When it's actually on YouTube if you Google it.
It seems illegal to.
Oh, of course.
Stuff goes on all the time.
So is Qatar giving Trump an airplane he gets to keep?
Yeah, exactly.
So are the backdoor deals that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are negotiating as part of their negotiations on behalf of the United States, two people who have no experience in negotiating.
Or the teleprompter operator that's betting on Kashi because he knows what's going to be on there. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah,
I did not.
The teleprompter operator knew what Trump's speeches were going to be in advance, so he was betting on the Kashi market ahead of what he was going to say.
Oh my goodness!
Oh jeez!
Isn't that great? Is it? You can't make this. I'm going to say shit. You can't make this up. You really can't. And like I said, I stand by that. What other countries must think. And I'm like, just when you think that the envelope could go even further, like really? It's just, and the same thing with the market manipulation. They passed something supposedly that the Congress and Senate cannot now buy stocks and securities based on, policy, but it's been going on for years and years. If they know something that's going on, they can buy stock in a company like Nancy Pelosi's, is worth like $300 million. And she wasn't even close to that when she first started her political career.
Well, that's part of the allure of wanting to be, a congressman or congresswoman is you leave office a lot richer than you went in.
Yeah.
However you pull it off. That's so noble of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That people in
and
government,
not to be a conspiracy theorist, but this is documented. This is documented. And this is the one that blows my mind away is when the U.S. wanted to take over Cuba. This is before Bay of Pigs. That McNamara was Kennedy's chief of staff for military and such. And he wanted to come up with a ploy that they wanted to create a situation in Miami where Cubans were going to come and attack the city of Miami, and that they were going to get the U.S. to take the side of this terrorist attack back in the early 60s. And then that would be a reason to attack Cuba. Well, Kennedy was so upset at McNamara, he said there would be no way possible that they would shed American blood because of this. We are not going to let that happen. And they squashed it. But it's actually documented in U.S. archives that they have the notes and the documentation that this was actually that there was consideration that this was going to happen.
Wow.
I mean, stuff like that is just like, what we're taught in school and what we see today are two different things. It's really different.
Oh yeah.
Forget what you're learning, kids.
Yeah, forget what you're learning, kids. Yeah.
So Chris, we're on our last minute here, and we're going to announce our new book.
Oh.
And you're welcome to join us as well. It might not be on trade, but some of the books have. We've read Chip War, Material World by Ed Conway, Trade War by Lorianne LaRocco.
Oh, that looks interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's where the Containers Don't Lie tagline comes from, because that was the subtitle. And next we're going to read, so those are ones that we've read that are related, but I mean, they're not just related to trade, they're related to life and how things work. So
nice.
And so our next book is, I can't remember what it's called. How
to Be Free by Shaka Senghor.
To Be Free. Okay.
Yeah, I'll finish it within the next couple of 3 days.
Oh wow.
I didn't know what to expect. I would put it in the semi-autobiographical self-help category.
Okay.
It's a guy who spent time in prison and got his act together and achieved success as an author and podcaster and all these other things. So I'm underwhelmed by it, but don't let that be my review. Do that, because I've been underwhelmed by some books others have really liked. But it's an interesting read.
Okay.
And you've been overwhelmed by some that others didn't like. So
yeah. And then we did pick, as we're in an eclectic selection mode lately. So our September pick is Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
I might jump you guys. I might jump on the September one. That will give me time to catch up on Chokepoints. I really enjoying the book so far.
You don't have to finish the book if you don't want to. We won't judge you.
You can show up and not have read it at all.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it.
And that's fine with that. With our book club. That's the kind of book club we run around here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not elitists. Don't worry.
Yeah, and Lister's looking down on us, going,
Aww. I know she is.
I know, because she would have a book club and tell me about all the funny rules and characters they had, and then I would tell her about mine, and she'd be like, really?
Aww.
Yeah, we don't have any rules except that if you say you're going to show up, you show up.
Oh, that's fair. I will be there.
But if you don't show up, we don't need to hear why. Unless you want to share that.
How big is the book club? How many people?
It used to be 20, and then we did some culling because I thought that you could only have like a certain number of people in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And then I constantly add and change people as they participate or don't participate. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying, like, I think we should make like rules. We'll make rules inside the book club in the chat. But I'm thinking about going into 2020, the rest of 2026, with new rules. Like if you haven't nominated a book, you haven't voted, you haven't come to any sessions in, I don't know, 3 months, then you're out.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I know we're overtime, but just Chris, for your benefit, once a month we go through a process where everybody who participates, regardless of how the frequency of your participation, everybody gets an opportunity to nominate a book.
Oh, nice.
We do nonfiction 2 months and then a fiction, and then we just kind of do that rotation quarterly. Okay. And then when we go to vote, that's where participation matters. So let's say in the month of, when we do October's nomination, when we move to vote on the books that have been nominated, in July, if you didn't attend at all, your vote counts once.
Okay. If
you attended one of the 2 sessions, your vote counts as 2. And if you attended both sessions, your vote counts as 3. Gotcha. So everybody gets to nominate, which just increases the number of nominations, and everybody gets to vote whether you participated or not. But participation should matter, and that comes in the weighting of the voting.
Oh, okay. No, that's fascinating. I love I feel like I've learned so much today from you guys. It's really, I really enjoyed this.
Same
We're
here.
very democratic.
Yeah, I love it.
In our voting system.
Yeah.
No, yeah, because nice. We wouldn't be fair to the people like who do actively participate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on it. August 1st, I'll open up nominations for the October book.
Okay, look for that in the chat, guys. Thank you so much for coming today. What a amazing conversation, and it's always fun to have someone new.
Yep. Yeah. Good contributions, Chris. Thanks.
No, same here, guys. Same great contributions here, and it's a pleasure meeting you both. And thank you, Vanita, for inviting me to this group. I got excited. I was on a boat in Alaska, and I was reading this about when you were talking about Chokepoint. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to jump on this. This is really interesting. So it was like,
I'm so glad you did.
Oh, yeah, the hair. And then when I got the book, I started, and the hair on my neck was standing up. I'm like, this is fun. I like this. So
yeah,
I really enjoyed this. And like I said, it was great comments.
Yeah, that's just your like tester one. But
oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, but the next time like a book catches your eye, you're gonna be like on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, so pleasure meeting you too, Chris.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to like trade or geopolitical, I light up. It's fun. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
All right.
Good one. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of the afternoon.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care.